Hello everyone, and welcome to this mean Streets of Gadgetzan video. So this is not technically a card review video. What this is going to be is I kind of want to talk about where I think the meta is going to go, what decks I think are going to be created, and just kind of give my impressions on where I think the future of Hearthstone is going to go. So, one, I feel like the Jade Lotus decks are going to be very powerful initially, and then eventually not see any play. And the reason I say that is because aggro is king, and I feel like aggro will always be king. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a lot of Jade Lotus decks be very powerful, and then we're going to see the aggro decks come in and kind of take over and render the Jade Lotus decks pretty much ineffective because they won't be able to survive the early game long enough. That being said, I do think the Cabal decks will also see the Reno style decks are eventually not going to see play either. I still think that that mechanic is too inconsistent to see play, even though they've gotten some very powerful cards. Now, if they got some more powerful cards in the next expansion, I definitely think it will see play. The Grimy Goons mechanic, I think, will actually probably be the predominant mechanic going forward that will see long-term play. And I think it will really only see play in Paladin and a little bit in Hunter. So as much as I love all these mechanics, as much as I love everything that's involved in this set, as fun as I think it's going to be, I kind of do think we're just going to see a lot of these mechanics fall by the wayside at some point. That's just my opinion. You know, it's really hard to see a lot of them survive. However, I think the one that will survive is, like I said, Dragon Priest. And I think that aggressive Grimy Goons Paladin will also survive. And I do think that actually Druid Jade Golem will survive as well. But I think it's going to be a combination of the early game spell-based Druid thrown in with Jade Idols and Jade Blossoms and stuff like that. So, as you know, Mali Druid is a tier 1 deck right now, as well as Midrange Shaman. And so I really do think that combining Jade Golems with that deck will be very good. I think combining Jade Golems with Midrange Shaman will be very good. And I think Midrange Shaman with Golems will be a pretty good deck. But it may not be necessary. You know, I think Midrange Shaman will still be strong, you know, despite all these extra cards. But I think what we will see is we're going to see a few different decks rise, and what we're going to see is a tier 1, a plethora of tier 1 decks. We're going to see at least 4, maybe 5, maybe 6. I think Demon Lock actually has potential to be very good as well. I think Mage kind of got the short end of the stick. I think Rogue kind of got the short end of the stick here. I think those classes will probably not see a lot of play, and which is unfortunate because in Constructed, those are the ones that I personally think needed the most help. Aside from Tempo Mage, what other Mage deck was good? Aside from Miracle Rogue, what other Rogue deck was good? And neither one of those were tier 1. So I don't know if they got the tools to actually make themselves tier 1. Excuse me. I think Dragon Priest will be very good, but I think the Highlander Priest will be bad. Not bad, but just not very good. You know, you still sometimes see Cthulhu Priest, but for the most part, once you hit rank 10, you don't see it at all. And I think it'll be like that. I think Warrior actually got a pretty short end of the stick as well. Excuse me. But I do think that Temple Warrior will be good. And I think aggro, tempo, pirate, weapon-based warrior will actually be very good. And I think will actually succeed more than other warrior variants. And so in a weird way, I think Pirate Warrior, aggro Pirate Warrior is going to be tier 1 because that's the deck that's going to counter all these mid-range and slow decks. And I also think that a face hunter and aggro face hunter deck will also emerge. So those are the tier 1 decks that I predict. I predict aggro warrior, aggro hunter, grimy goons paladin, demon luck, mid-range shaman, and jade golem druid will all be tier 1 or tier 2. And I think, and dragon priest. Dragon priest will be good. So potentially we have upwards of 8 tier 1 decks, with rogue kind of getting the short end of the stick, but it's possible that jade golem rogue might be tier 1 as well. So what's really cool about this particular expansion is that the propensity for tier 1 decks to come out of every class is the highest it's ever been, I think, in all of Hearthstone. And this is where I think this entire expansion is really cool. I love the idea of tri-class. I love the idea of the mechanics that they've introduced. I love the fact that these classes are starting to have a little bit of crossover. I think that's neat. But I do think they've still managed to keep the identity of the classes. If nothing else, they've actually strengthened the identity of a lot of these classes. By associating the classes with each other, they've made each class distinct within their division, within their subsection of Cabal, Grimy Goons, and Jade Lotus. My problem with the Jade Lotus mechanic is that it doesn't seem like it was something that I would have associated with those classes to begin with. Grimy Goons makes sense. Paladins have buffs. Warriors have some buffs, but warriors are grimy. When someone says Grimy Goons, what am I thinking? I'm thinking warrior. I'm thinking hunter. Maybe paladin. Okay. But once I see what the mechanic is, it makes sense. It binds the classes. I get it. It makes sense. The Cabal, right? The idea of potions, the idea of magic, the idea of board clears and spells and Highlander decks. Totally makes sense. Thematically, it all fits, and I get it, and I like it, and I think that's neat. But what the fuck does Druid, Rogue, and Shaman have to connect each other? To me, it's more about magic. Or not magic per se, but elements. The idea of natural magic for Druid. The idea of elemental magic for Shaman. The idea of, I don't know, I guess hiding in the shadows for Rogue. I honestly think Rogue doesn't even fit in the Jade Lotus, personally. But it's there. But what did they choose to connect these things with? A bunch of Jade Golems? I don't think that binds the classes together. I don't think that is thematically a very good idea. So from a design perspective, I think it's a little lazy. I think those are the 3 classes that they couldn't figure out how to put into a group, and so they just put them into a group and said, all right, Jade Lotus, here we go. That's how we'll connect them. These things, these Jade Golems. And you notice they only gave Rogue 2 fucking things. Jade Shuriken and the Jade Swarmer. That's it. They don't have any other fucking Jade mechanics that are specific to their class. Druid and Shaman got 3 each. I'm very pissed at that, because I thought if Jade Rogue got 3 class mechanics, they would be fucking excellent, and they could tempo out really hard, and they'd be a really good deck. So now they're sort of forced to rely on the Jade Spirits, on Aya Blackpaw, on the Lotus Agents, and I don't like that, and it's going to slow them down, and they're not going to be able to tempo out, and they're not going to, it's just, one stupid fucking card is all they needed. If they just had a 3-drop, 2/2, summon a Jade Golem, perfect, done. Even if it was a big drop, even if it was a 6-drop or a 5-drop that summoned a Jade Golem, it'd be awesome. Just a little more support. So I'm very disappointed with the direction that they've taken Rogue. I think Rogue has too much stuff going on. I feel like every class got something, and they said, okay, here you go. Here's one archetype, and then here's your class archetype, and there you go. And that's what you're going to do. Paladin, what do they have? They have the Grimy Goons. They're going to buff everything in their hand. They're going to play minions. They're going to snowball. That's what they do. That's their identity, and Grimy Goons furthers that. Warriors, okay, what are we going to do with them? We're going to give them a bunch of taunt minions, and we're going to give them Grimy Goon effects. There you go. So you have a Grimy Goons deck, you have a taunt warrior deck. Okay, that's the archetype. There you go. Hunter, what do they have? Death Rattles. We're going to push Death Rattles. We're going to push Death Rattles, we're going to push Secrets, and we're going to push Grimy Goons, and some combination of those is going to be a deck. There you go. Clear. It's there. Warlock, what do we have? Demons. We're going to have Demons, and we're going to have Highlander decks. There you go. Those are your choices. Those are what you can play with them. Mage, what do we have? Secret Mage, Highlander Mage. There you go. Priest, what do we have? Highlander Priest, Dragon Priest. There you go. 2 deck archetypes, right? Shaman, what do we have for them? Jade Lotus, and then all the shit they already had. So, there you go. Maybe a control-based Shaman is in there too. What do we have for Druid? Right? We have Token Druid, and then we have Jade Lotus Control Druid. It's there. There you go. What do we have for Rogue? We have Steal Your Stuff Rogue. We have Stealth Rogue. We have Jade Lotus Rogue. We have Miracle Rogue. So, yay! In theory, there's 4 viable archetypes for Rogue. Guess what? None of them are going to be very good. The problem is none of those archetypes compare to Miracle Rogue right now. They just don't. And unfortunately, they're all going to kind of fall by the wayside, and Rogue's going to get fucked. And Rogue is once again going to be a forgotten class and constructed, and it sucks because I like Rogue. I want Rogue to be viable. I want Rogue to be a thing. I want there to be good Rogue decks. And I feel like every other class has the potential to have a tier 1 deck except for Rogue. And that annoys me greatly. So let's kind of talk about some deck archetypes that I really like, that I'm really looking forward to playing. Grimy Goons Paladin, I think, is going to be really interesting, and I really want to play it. And that, as a Paladin player, you know, as a guy who has loved Paladin from the beginning, I'm really looking forward to that. I think Taunt Warrior is going to be interesting, but I don't think it's going to be viable. I really want to play the super annoying Death Rattle Hunter that I think is going to be a thing. Maybe sprinkle in some secrets here and there, buff a few things here or there. But for the most part, just to play a bunch of crazy Death Rattle shit that never fucking truly dies. Looking forward to playing that. I'm really looking forward to trying out Secrets Mage, but I think it's going to suck. I actually want to look forward to making a really good Reno Mage deck, and I think we finally have the tools for that, so I'm very excited for that. I'm really looking forward to playing Demon Lock. I think that's going to be neat, and I think it's gotten a lot of support. I really want to see a tempo-oriented Demon Lock, maybe even a Zoo Demon Lock. I'm really looking forward to trying that out and playing that. For Priest, Dragon Priest. Man, that's going to be fucking good. That's going to be really strong. I'm really excited to play that. Less excited to play the Highlander Priest. I don't necessarily think that's going to be very good, and I think the support it's gotten is not good enough to make it a thing. And then for the Jade Lotus, I think Jade Lotus, Jade Golem Druid, just this really long game, grind it out, crush you with more Jade Golems than you can handle, Druid. I think it's going to be really cool. I can't wait to play that. I am looking forward to playing a Stealth Rogue, a Stealth Burgle Rogue, maybe with Mountain Giants, definitely with Shadow Senseis and stuff like that. I think that actually could be viable and could be a cool deck. Not tier 1, but cool deck. And, yeah, and last but not least, Shaman, you know, I think Jade Golem Shaman is actually not going to be that good. I think the cards they got are kind of awkward and sort of wonky, but I do think that you could just kind of fit a few of them in as replacements for mid-range Shaman, and then have a nice, viable Jade Golem deck, or mid-range Shaman deck that has some Jade Golem synergy in it, which will just add a little bit more value and make them that much stronger. And I think mid-range Shaman will still be a really good deck. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's kind of my meta snapshot. That's where I think things are going to go. And I hope you like this video, and it's shorter than most of them, and thank you very much.